Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, I'm just taking a slide.
So now let's
Yeah, all right. So we are live right now, currently on LinkedIn and YouTube. Uh, First of all, welcome everyone for this amazing session of webinar which we are hosting. We have with us, joining us, Ashok Mandal, who is also one of our EB's mentor, and it's very exciting to have you here with us, Ashok. Before we get started, first and foremost, I would like to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Candida. I'm part of the community team from Recro. We have a community of developers called Rebase by Recro, and this webinar is being hosted by Rebase. So I'll just share my screen to just give you a small snippet on what Rebase as a community is and what we do for our community members. Is my screen visible, Ashok?
Yep.
Yeah. So once again, welcome everyone for today's session. So today we'll be speaking about master in any program language, and Ashok will be giving you a roadmap on how you can, achieve this. In today's day and age, everyone is in a very competitive market, job market, and I think this webinar is going to be really helpful for beginners to intermediaries, like how they can excel at their programming language and how they can be skilled on learning multi-level languages. And I think it's going to be a really great session and a very insightful session today. As I mentioned before, this webinar is hosted by Rebase by Recro, and we are a developer. We currently have around more than 3,000 members in our community, and we are very active on Discord. So a little bit of insight about Rebase. So we have a pool of amazing mentors with us. Ashok being one of them. These mentors are from Google, Uber, Microsoft, and so on. They give us good, we have mentorship sessions where they provide a lot of insider tips on interview prep, job opportunities, networking, career guidance, and so on and so forth for you to excel at your current job openings. Also, we do a lot of offline meetups, such as we have been doing a lot of offline meetups in cities like Kolkata, Indore, Ahmedabad, Bangalore. I think we had a meetup last month, I mean this month in Ahmedabad, and we are going to have a meetup in Bangalore and Indore as well for the next month. So this is a very exciting opportunity for you guys. Once you be a part of a community, you will be able to join this meetups. These meetups have been proven as a excellent way for you developers to meet fellow developers of your city itself and have a face-to-face interaction with each other. So yeah, as I mentioned, we are active on Discord, so you can join us on Discord. Join our community on Discord. Get in touch with all the fellow developers which we have in the community. Interact. Apart from the mentorship session of offline meetups, we do have a lot of other things going on also in the community. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty part of it. I want you guys to come into our community, explore. It's a perfect platform for you guys to interact with developers of your likeness. So yeah, I'll be sharing the link on the chat, and you'll be able to join in there. And I'm excited to see you guys. do let me know once you come into the community that you have joined from webinar. I would be really excited to have a chat with you guys and help you guys on what you're looking for in the community and give a one-on-one personalized help for you guys. So coming to today's speaker, we have with us Ashok. He's having around more than 7+ years of experience, and he have worked with amazing brands such as Microsoft and Razor Pay and so on. He has been expertised in high-level design, code reviews, tech concept, career guidance, and so on. And as I mentioned, he's an amazing part of our Rebase family. As a mentor, he have done a lot of mentorship sessions, which have been a very good, helpful insights for our community members. I'll be also sharing Ashok's LinkedIn page, LinkedIn profile on the chat. You guys can maybe after the webinar, if you want to get in touch with Ashok, ask further questions regarding the webinar or so on, you can connect with him there on LinkedIn as well. You can also come to our server and interact with Ashok there as well. So yeah, Ashok, over to you. Would you like to, introduce yourself, say a little few things about you?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Candid, for giving me this great intro. I will go ahead. So, hi everybody. I'm Ashok Mandal. I currently work at Open Door. I've been in this industry since last 7 8 years, writing different kind of softwares. I've worked with multiple kind of companies, startups to MNCs, contributing to different kind of software, different stacks. Uh, yeah, basically creating impact wherever possible, right? So yeah, that's my brief intro, I would say. Been worked with some of the companies as well, like Razorpay and Microsoft, where I try to create some impact as well. And currently at Open Door, I'm very focused on working on some of the LLM use case. So yeah, good AI stuff, pretty crazy AI stuff going on right now. Uh, so yeah, so today's I would say what I want to present to you guys today is basically what happens when you join a company, right? The first and if it is a very good company which is like doing have a good traction, they might have a very huge code base already. So you might face some kind of issues reading the, maybe it's a very different language altogether, and that's a huge code base. You want to read it, understand, and maybe try to add impact to it, right? Create some your contributions to it as soon as possible, as fast as possible. And I have seen that a lot of people struggle with that. Even I did once, right? And I figured out that if I have to do and if I have to create a positive contribution toward a particular code base, I have to understand it well, and for that I have to understand the language. What I want to understand the what language has to offer me, right? What kind of things I can do with that, so I can make correct decisions, right? What kind of API I want to use and those things. So yeah, for that, I think there are some basic steps which we'll follow, and I will just explain this. I have a slides. I will present my slides out right after this, and present you the whole steps and process I follow personally, so I can contribute to the code base as soon as possible.
All right, Ashok. I think it's going to be a very exciting, webinar here, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to find insights from the wealth of experience that you have here. Excited to have you here with us, imparting your insights and knowledge. Before we start off with the webinar, I'll just give you a quick few notice to keep down. Uh, First and foremost, like we want to keep this webinar very interactive. So in between any questions, these are for the attendees who are there currently with us, joining us. You guys can ask questions in the Q&A session, and then we'll be taking it. Ashok will be taking it on that front. And people who have joined LinkedIn, who was live with us currently on LinkedIn, you guys can post your questions there. towards the end of the session, we'll be taking up your questions as well. Um, right. Also, I would love to know where you guys are from. So, you can make the chat as interactive as possible. Let me know where you guys are from, what you guys do, all your basic things. And yeah, so let's get started with this amazing session. Over to you, Ashwin.
Yeah. So let me share my screen. I think the host is disabled. I think can you allow me to share my screen? Can you- Yep. Awesome.
Can you?
Mm,
No?
I think okay. I will have to rejoin the webinar. Sorry for that. Let me just give me 2 seconds. I'll be
Yeah.
back.
No. Hey guys, sorry for the little bit of technical issue we are having here. So let's just wait for Ashok to join back on the webinar. But then, yeah, as I did mention, you guys can, post your post where you guys are from, what you guys do, your name, and so on and so forth. I would love to have an interaction with you guys as well live as we have this webinar going on. Do post in your questions. We'll be taking it live as well.
Yeah. Can you allow me now?
Yeah, 1 second.
Yep. Great. Awesome. Yep. Let me know when you guys can start. See my screen.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Yep. Awesome. So just okay. Okay. So let me present it. Okay. So yeah. Uh, so hi everyone. So we'll go through this like steps of things we want to do. Generally, what I want to present to you guys is a practice, like what kind of steps you should take to actually reach that position where you can contribute, right? So, and I'm assuming that we want to learn a particular language here. And currently, I'm just talking about language and its capabilities, correct? So let's ahead. Yep. So I've almost like 8 years of software engineering experience now. Uh, Started with a lot of multiple startups. Currently working with Open Door. Before that, I was with Razorpay, Microsoft. And, uh, yeah, that's a small intro. So this is the tech stack I've exposed to till now. This is what is I'm exposed to professionally, but uh, mostly I have used multiple other languages as well in my pet projects like that. So yeah, this is so you can assume by that I had to go through a lot of code which was written in like JS, C++, right, and had to contribute to it, right? So yeah, so I mean, first of all, what mental model I want to create here is, I mean, the computer science as a um, discipline is has not much changed over years, right? The fundamentals will always be remaining the same. Like we have almost 300 computing, almost approximately computer 300 computer programming languages in the world, right? But the fundamental has remained same. Uh, we want our program to run faster. We want more memory to store things, right? We want to optimize the memory to keep things lighter. So those things will always be remaining same. So the mental model you have to think is that you are uh, a programmer and you are dealing with computers, and computer more or less are same given it's more fast also, right? So, okay, so mental model change starts from the very beginning is that we have an input and we want to get an output after processing it, right? So this is it, right? This is the like the zeroth process where we start. Um, so what kind of data we can get? Like we can get it from our standard input, which is like text input from the console. Like we have devices, videos, like for processing videos, we have network, right? The network card can get receives data, right? So we can that's our input. Audio is again another input. Other and lot of other input things we can have, right? So, so for the process part, what you do the math, right? You read the data, you try to process it to certain way and into a certain way, and then you give the output. So again, output can be again standard output, visual, hardware, any kind of things you have, right? So now, why have put this here? Because despite being you belong to whatever domain, right? Eventually there will be some use case which might be part of this list of outputs. It could be you're working with a video processing company, let's say Adobe, right? Or they have very great suite which does video editing and photo editing, right? So their outputs is different. The input was a video and output is a video. So their input is the image and output is an image. So you have to think in a multi-model that what I have to do with that image, right? The process basically. So these are the type of paradigms which generally programming, like general programming languages fall into, right? So I want to ask one question to the chat that how many of you heard of that this and what count how many of it you have used and put it in the chat. Let me see like uh, how many people have actually understanding around the paradigm they are using. Okay, there's one object-oriented programming. Great. Three. Okay, great. Functional is very. I mean, I've used functional. Uh, uh, functional reactor. Great. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah. So the programming language at least fall into one of this, and eventually the style you write will dictate the kind of software you create, right? So yeah, that was the thing. So now what we need to think ourselves like? So we should be our thinking like we are a plumber. Right? So what the plumber does is basically there's a water source X, let's say A, right? And they want to build the pipeline. So they create the water reaches the correct place. Correct. So what generally engineers should also do, think like a plumber. And data is coming in from a point A, and our task is to create a path to point C, right? And in order to do that, you'll basically create more points in between, like point B, point C, point D, and eventually reach Z. So our task is to reach Z, but how you reach Z could be very different for different people. But there will be multiple points in between, right? Let's say, example, um, we have a stream of events coming in, and we might want to store it somewhere temporarily. That's point B. Then we want to process it and store it in a database. That's point C. And eventually, there's a web page where you want to show some reports, that is point Z. So the idea is it's a whole process. There can be multiple checkpoints in between, and eventually you need to focus on how eventually you reach to point Z, right? So that is this. We have to go through this model before uh, thinking about the technicalities of how, right? So it if you think like this plumber thing, right, you will eventually uh, be more far-sighted, and you'll think more of an eagle's point of view, right? So let's think about a scenario that you want to learn a new language X, okay, and you want to contribute to it, eventually want to create an impact on this project, at least something, right? You want to create your first PR, let's say. So I would say the first few days of onboarding into project, you should first focus on what kind of things you're using. There could be one new language you want to master, so I would focus on the language first. Right? So I would say start writing a Hello World program first. This is very basic, and what it helps you that with that is basically you learn writing in Hello World is just not writing a Hello World. Hello World was created for a reason because uh, it gives you an exposure to how you want to download the language system in your computer, how you build the system, how you use the binaries to run the program, right? So eventually, writing an Hello World gives you an exposure to that. So that was the thing what it was built for, right? So yeah, let's write a Hello World somewhere. Okay, any language you pick, you can basically write a Hello World for that. Now learn these things. I didn't want to make it like so basic, so I just pointed out what the most important thing you should know about a language is how to define a variables, right? What are the data types it provides? I mean, data types is like integers, floats, double, right? Uh, things like that. Conditionals, right? What kind of if else things we have, uh, ternary operators, things like that, loops, right? What kind of loops we have? For loop, do while loops, right? Functions, how you define a function, right? Uh, so again, there is one more thing in data types that some of the language uh, functions are also like kind of a data type. So understand the all the kind of data types it can provide, right? Don't need to do like a extensive research. Just go through what can be a data type for a language. Loops, uh, function, like how you define a function, parameters, those things, right? And complex data structures like struct, right? Class. So those things are complex data structure, and how we would can define it, how you basically uh, use it in your system, right? So these are the basic things you should know before like doing other steps. What I'm trying to say. Oh, okay. So now I would suggest the first program you should write is files. Why it is required is, I think it gives you a lot of exposure towards um, what the memory based tools you will get in the language, right? Let's say you want to read a file and want to take out some read some data and create it in a buffer, right? And you want to process that buffer. So you will able to learn those things using those bits and buffers, right? And you will also know how to handle a file, given that this is a very basic thing, which even you go down to writing a database, you'll have to handle files as well, right? So these are the basic things like open, read, print, write, string, right? These are the things you should be able to do. So I would say note this down. These are some of the practices which I listed in this particular webinar. Note this down and do this step. And at the end of these all steps, you will feel more confident about the language. That okay, I know this thing now. I have this in under my tool belt. Okay. So this is one thing. Files. Okay. Example. I've also created. So you don't need to think about. Uh, okay, I have to do something with files, but tell me what I should build so that I learn about it, right? So basically, I'm the telling create a simple banking app. Okay, it involves five. So I would say these will be the operations we should focus on. Create account, which basically, if a new user comes, they want to create an account, you can give a create an account, store it in the file, saying that this person has this account, right? Uh, Deposit money. We should able to add uh, like add money if he wants to withdraw money, and everything should involve file here. So you should be interacting with files during this all the operations. Transfer money again, same thing with files. So what skills will achieve using this? You will understand how you handle files in that particular language. What's the programming structure basically will follow, and what's the uh, how do you IO, right? What kind of input output you can do, right? The next thing you should focus on is networking. So I think this is one of the most important part. I think now almost all the applications need some kind of uh, networking stack, right? Basically, you want to uh, if you the input is coming from network, the output is going to a network. So eventually, you want to build on networks, right? So you need to understand what kind of tools the language provide to which I can use to interact with the network. So most of the modern languages, if you see, will provide you with some kind of library which you can use to create servers, clients, and things like that. Right? So what you should master here? Basically TCP, UDP, and HTTP, HTTP2 nowadays, right? So okay, again another very interesting thing which you should focus on. So this is an application uh, we should create. I mean, basically, uh, so we want to create a tail application over network. Okay, so this is you have to create a server which will like basically host a WebSocket server, right? And which keeps reading a log file provided as a STD input, okay, and send file contents to the active client. So whoever is streaming that content basically connected to the server should receive the content of the log files. That is one component. The client should be create a WebSocket client which connects to the server and log the event content to the STD out, right? This will basically be it can be any client. Again, you can use any language, but I would suggest that whatever language you're reading, use the create the server in the same uh, language and client as well, right? And there is one more thing you can add to it is like a log writer. Basically, it will when you run this program, it will append a lot of like 10, 20 lines to the log file which you're reading. Again, you can also do one more thing is you can do this in front end as well. Like you can create an application and web app, and we connect to this server through the WebSocket client provided in the front end, and stream all the logs in the front end through JavaScript and all. Right? That's what you should do. So, what kind of skills I got? Right. WebSockets, right, which is mostly TCP stack. Server client architecture, we got to understand that how, if I use this language, how I should uh, be creating server and client. So more or less, the server client creation process should be different, should be similar around stacks. Like let's say you're going to create an UDP server as well. So kind of similar approach you will take. File handling. Again, as there is file involved in this as well, you'll be able to understand what kind of things I should use, because you have to keep reading that file again and again and looking for changes. So this will give you an insight over how to deal with that, right? Because this is not normal read and write. This is again streaming. So yep, this is one application I would suggest. Uh, Database, right? I mean, some or other place. I mean, database is mostly involved in almost all the applications. So, and less likely is that you will work with files. So again, this is one application you can create to uh, understand what is the um, what is the ways to create a actual production ready application. And generally, whenever we interact with a particular database like MySQL or any kind of database, we generally use an ORM, right? Object Relation Mapper, right? And that will help you to understand uh, various ways to uh, add your APIs, create logic, right? So yeah, this is a very small example. I think this is very much people are well versed with. Okay. So here, what kind of skills we learned? Basically, a database ORM based application, right? You understand what layered byte architecture will be like. You create a server, you receive a particular request, and you process the system with an ORM, process the request with an ORM, right? You make some changes in the database and respond back. That's the thing you learned from this. And let's say you come from a Node.js background, uh, then you want to write a program in Go. So I think this will be, and you're already versed with ORM. I think you should be very well equipped to write a program like that, right? In Go, it should be pretty much easy. So yeah, this is one thing. Okay, let's move on to graphics. Uh, so for graphics, uh, I think every uh, language has some kind of features which will give you capabilities to manipulate graphics, right? Draw and colors, things like that, right? So I would suggest everyone to go through the graphics library which the language provide. Uh, uh, Maybe draw some animation using it. What exactly it will give us an understanding is if ever you had to work with some kind of graphics manipulation program, you know where to go, right? Uh, and Yeah, that so I would suggest like create some kind of snake game or a basic drawing animation, which will give you an understanding around like uh, basic how to draw basic shapes, right? How to create an animation loop. And again, if you create a game, right, you'll know about what's the game loop, right? How the game loop works. So yeah, this is one good practice you can do. Again, we is multi-threading. So it is very important. I think uh, it's one of the important concepts we should learn for any kind of programming language you go to. And different programming language actually offers different kind of model to do concurrency. Uh, but I would suggest whatever programming language we choose, understand the concurrency model for that particular programming language. But at the end, you want to achieve a Z, right? That what we talked about. So, what kind of activity or what kind of uh, things we should do to learn that? So, I'll giving a task. Basically, this task is around mm, manipulating images. Okay, so we need to find an endpoint where you can download thousands of images, like Wikipedia or somewhere, which basically runs a program, processes these images into its own thread. So we want to do that. We can create like thousands of threads and run this program. Uh, and what this particular thread does is convert the image into a black and white image, an RGB image with black and white image, right? So, and when all the program threads are done, exit, and that's what we want to build. So it will give you an idea about how we interact with the concurrency API. That was you'll learn. Um, every language will provide you some kind of APIs for dealing with concurrency. How the memory model is for threads, and so if you have heard of Go, it provides you very lightweight threads called Go routines. And similarly, other languages also provide like similar kind of tools. So this is one of that, right? So again, take this. I mean, this is a very good exercise, I think, for learning multi-threading. Uh, Tests. So nowadays, almost all the modern language provides some kind of assertion libraries, which basically help you to write tests, right? And I say even a very small, if you start with a very small programming task, right? You should write tests for it, right? So uh, this step, as I told you, I gave you a task around to do application, which involve database with a ORM. You can write tests for that. So you will understand what's the basics of testing for this particular language, right? So um, it should involve like a for to do it could be create task, complete task, right, delete task, and you just do a setup and tear down based test suite for that application. So you will learn what kind of skills here, basically testing, assertion, those things. uh this is done. Okay. These After all this, what you should go for, right? I would say the best thing is the docs. So when I started my career around like 2015, so I was hired for a Node.js position, and to be frank, there was not much content that time. I mean, there was good community, but not much content around uh, Node.js. But luckily, the Node.js has a very good documentation. Uh, so I was going through it, and it really helped me a lot. And not all languages give you like very great documentation, but these are some languages which provide like great documentation, like Go, Rust, and C Sharp. So, and the best part is what I used to do every 2 days or every 3 days, I used to open one topic and try to run it in my local system, right? And yeah, that gave me a lot of exposure. And I'll give you one great example of how did the documentation help me. So once there was a very So I was working in this company called Fusion Charts, which is again a very old startup. When startups were not even a thing, it was a startup. So uh, and there was a task which involved processing like millions or like almost 50 million CSV rows and converting that into a particular format, right? So to do that, they wanted it was taking a lot of time, whatever programs they were written, and even the libraries we installed for Node, it was not that efficient. So what I thought, I was going through the Node.js docs, and which I did it earlier, not during the task, is at streams called transform stream, right? And that transform stream was basically nothing. It is converting a file, reading a file line by line, and processing it line by line, and outputting it to a particular output stream line by line. So I write a custom transform stream to do that, basically taking one line at a time, processing it and outputting it. So it helped me like solve the issue in like few seconds. So that was a like the magic of reading docs. I mean, if you read docs, you will know what tools you have, right? So yeah, this is I think follow docs. This is the best thing you can do if you want to learn a particular language. Our new best friend in the market is LLMs. Uh, so I'm currently working with LLMs, writing some vision using vision APIs. So even writing that was and LLMs are pretty new, right? So uh, understanding and creating some product with it will require me to go through docs, and again, I'm not from a machine language background, so I don't know the maths behind it. So a lot of time I struggle a lot. So I go to chat gpt, I tell me, you know, I want to do this, tell me how to do it, and I get some kind of direction from it. So I would suggest like use your, you keep this as your like, so one of the most important tools uh, you use, right? It's free. uh, and the best thing it can do is give you a structured output, right? Give you some way of like an order, in an order in your response, right? So one other thing it can do, like from asking it to generate a proper code structure. So recently, like I wanted to learn Rust, and I asked the uh, ChatGPT to create me a core structure, how to do it, and it gave me a step-by-step process to how to learn Rust, right? Now, what you can do is prompt again, saying that, okay, for you have created me the structure. Now, teach me the lesson one, right? So it will again create some kind of content for you to read. And so this is great. I mean, basically, if you want to understand a piece of code, to if you want to refactor it to look much better and explainable, right? So it can do a lot of things for you. So this is great. Okay, this almost we have reached to the end of the session, and I want to take more questions and all uh, after this. The most important thing I think a programmer should have is an ability to read a lot of code, and it is very important to thinking in abstract terms, not just going into the nitty-gritty details. Eventually, when you level up, you start have to think a little, go a little bit backwards and think in more abstract terms, right? You should when you build systems. So you have if one of the example is like let's say you have used Redis. That's great. Now, can you dive into the code base of Redis, uh, read some code, and just try to understand that what kind of thing it wants to do, right? You know what the basic things you use it for. Can you try to find out where is it, where the definition of that function is, you'll get to know. Uh, you have Kubernetes, right? Again, Kubernetes is a very huge Golang bit code base, but it's great. I mean, you should go and read. They have a very good quality code written for it. Okay, so now with the chat, I want to do an exercise. So this is the code base code. So I want you answer from the chat. So this is a function. Let's not worry about where it is written and all. But let's think. Let's reason about it. Okay. So first thing I want to tell the team here to read the code. Okay, and try to find out the data type for con type max, and write it in the chat. Just read for a few minutes. Understand? Okay. Int. Great. Okay. So that's from int. So yeah, it is int. Now let's go ahead and try to guess the data type for city. Um, int. I mean, read the whole code, because now you know that you got the CT type, right? But there's lot of other things are there. There's a if block which basically checks something, right? Um, no, that's not a boolean. See, it has some attached attributes as well, right? There's a function called process pending data. Yeah. So basically, the idea is how we should like read a code without worrying about the context. That is very important. So here, what we are doing is the function name says con type process pending data, right? So there's some kind of connection type we are talking about here. Even there is a comment, right? Work all the connection types and process pending data for each connection type. So we're dealing with multiple type of connection type. And if you see, the CT is already defined there. It is of type connection type, right? So it is a complex type. So here what we are doing is for type 0 to connection type max, basically we might have a enum somewhere telling that from 0, this is the connection type 1. Type 1 is a different type of connection type. And we might have like tens of type of connection, right? And we don't know about what the connection types actually are, but we know that what we're doing here. Now what we are doing is for every connection type, there's a connect con types map, right? Which basically for every type it can return me the object for it, right? And for every connection type, we check if there is a function process pending data on it, and if it is there, we uh, call that function, right? Now what it is doing, it is adding all the values from the processing data, whatever it returns, and returns it back. So more or less, you get the idea that this is a function which basically process some pending data, and you got some idea around the connection type and things like that. I mean, you got some thing without even knowing the whole code base. And I'll give you some. Uh, okay, so let me reveal it. It is the one of the code base from one of the code snippet from Redis internals, right? So yeah, this is one of the good habit I think um, person should have to read code and try to reason about also. I mean, just not read code, try to reason about why that particular code is written. Right? So yeah, I think this is what I had in my bag, and I want to take questions from now, but I cannot. Okay, so sharing.
Uh, yeah. So chat, you guys can, post your questions in the chat. In the meantime, till we wait for the chat, we did have a lot of questions come in during the registration time. So
Okay,
I think I'll share, we'll start off with those questions first. And then
okay,
in the meantime, if any questions are coming on chat, we can take that up as well.
sure.
One question which was asked was, which programming language is best to learn as a beginner and should have to use in the industry as well?
Okay. Um, Beginner wise, I would say if you don't know a lot about programming, I would say go with JavaScript or Python. I think it's quite easy to learn. You can create applications with it as well. Um, Very basic. Yeah, that's the best thing, I think.
Uh, right. Next one is, how long does it realistically take to learn programming language and become a SDE?
ST.
SDE.
Oh, oh,
System.
okay. So becoming an SD and learning a language is pretty much both are a different kind of task altogether. So learning a language will basically give you some understanding that how to uh, do a particular task, right? Given a particular uh, um, work, right? And how you should uh, write something, some program for it. But SD has a lot of other things to worry about is what is the scope of work and uh, um, what kind of things I have to deal with, what kind of teams I'm working with, right? So, I mean, it's a very good start if you learn a programming language. Generally, it should not take you more than uh, 3 weeks to a month for learning a language. I mean, again, you cannot be a master. I don't think even the person who wrote C++ know everything about C++, all the functions memorized in their brains. So it is not physically possible, mentally possible, basically, right? So what you should focus on, as I showed in my slides, I'll share the slides again with the team so you guys can access it. What I want to convey through the slides is it's the task at the end, not the language. So whatever language you choose, try to convert that into something actionable and like run down with it, like run with it. Yes.
All right, great. So we have a question from the attendees that have come. How to decide to choose which technology for a particular idea? Uh, it's been asked by Purushottam.
Okay. How to choose a language? I mean, I will give you some story around like it doesn't matter whichever language you know, go for it. Start doing that. So I'm talking about projects, right? Let's say you want to create another Redis. Maybe you want to do that in what the Redis people have done, but you can do the same thing with some other language as well. It's pretty much possible. But I'm talking about general web projects or APIs. I would say, start doing with anything. It's at the end, whatever what you want to do, want to create with it, and it's a very much incremental process. Let's say you start with Python, okay, and uh, you wrote an API and you see that, yeah, okay, it's working fine, but somehow you are not happy with the performance. So now you will go and research over, like, what language I should use so that for these APIs I can have a better performance. So maybe you can start using a better performing language like Go and uh, other good, right? Go and Java, right? So it depends. I would say does not matter if you are doing for some using some project. I generally, in a company, people have their set mind what they want to use. Technology wise, they have already established some standards. But let's say you are in a place where you have to decide. I would say do extensive research across multiple languages, benchmark, that is very important for your use case. Your use case could be anything, like you might be processing images, and my use case could be something else like WebSockets or something, right? And you want to make sure that you choose the correct technology for it. So you want to make sure you will basically start doing some kind of an MVP, a small a program which you can benchmark. Start benchmarking, you will get to know, okay, this is the best language I can go for. This is my use case, so this is the best. No language is the perfect language be sure, to be, uh, I mean, fair. Right? So yeah, benchmark, basically create examples, benchmark, then choose. That's the way.
Alright. So we did have a kind of like statement type thing come from LinkedIn by Bhumit. So he's telling like, can we really trust LLMs to learn new things as they hallucinate? It's better to use it when we are stuck, but to learn it from the scratch, he's still skeptical about it. So can you give a bit clarity on things about it?
Um, I would say, um, so it will hallucinate on things which is not very uh, like exact, right? It's, like you give it an mathematical problem, it might hallucinate because it's not so good at it. But there are ways for prompting it where you can get the answer right for mathematical problems as well. Uh, and if you have explored the new models, like there's something called GPT-4o, which they released recently, the OpenAI, and they are working on GPT-5 as well. Uh, I have heard rumors, and eventually it will become better and better. But the idea is you can go and read over the internet, and a lot of times it might not be helpful. You have to do a lot of reading, and which is good. But again, if you want to save some time, it is pretty much helpful to go to an LM and ask, where should I go at least, right? To give me a direction. And again, you should not. I would not suggest you to for a production level code. You want to generate code for it, like you want to write a function for it. Don't ask to generate code. It's still not very great at it. It hallucinates very badly. I would suggest for writing any kind of functions, any kind of code, you have to make yourself. You have to create a structure in your mind first. That these are the steps I want to follow, and if you have the steps in your hand, then it can generate code for you. You can't tell the LLM to generate the steps as well. It will hallucinate because it doesn't have that much context, right? uh, that what kind of things you're doing, what are the teams you're interacting with, right? So a lot of things. So context is very much important when you are talking to LLMs. You can provide them the context, but I don't think so. It's worth the effort. It's better to have like write the code, create the steps in your head, create the steps in a document, pass it. Maybe it will generate good code. Then.
Mm. I hope, Bhumit, you got clarity on that. Yeah. So we have another question from Shweta from the chat. How how did you inculcate the habit of code reading while actually working for a company? Because we are
Uh,
always in a hurry to complete jobs.
yeah, very, very good question actually. Uh, because I understand we have very limited amount of time every day. We sleep 8 hours or 7 hours, and we're only left with 17 something, 17 or 12. Uh, some hours left with us if we. So, yeah, I mean, to be frank, it's more of an interest-based thing than like if you incline toward reading or understanding code and technology excites you a lot, uh, you will eventually do that. I would say the main problem is our there's a blockage in our mind saying that whatever the Redis people are doing or the Kubernetes people are doing, I don't think we are well equipped to understand that. We are not at that level. That is the blockage which is basically keeping us from even opening the repo which is open source, which anybody can read and contribute to. Right. The problem is I haven't contributed to any of the repos at all, but I love to go and see how they have structured the code. Maybe that I learned something from that, or maybe what kind of data structures they have created to do that, right? So yeah, I mean, it's not about like always like it's not of a competitive mindset. It's more of a learning mindset, right? If you think of a competitive mindset that I want to do my job and I want to be the best in my job, then you will eventually be very much exhausted and you'll not be able to do all the other things you can do. The mindset you should go for is what I'm learning through doing this, right? Uh, what kind of impact it is creating. So when you do that, you will have that mental capability to go to, let's say, Kubernetes and any kind of open source code and read it and maybe incorporate those learnings in your work as well, right? And let's say you're building something. Let's example, you're building an LLM based application. A lot of people might have already open sourced a lot of application based on LLMs. You can go and read, understand, learn something from it, then apply it. It is indirectly affecting your work as well. So you have to think that it is affecting your work as well. That is the mindset you should go for. I think that's what I think when I read code.
So there's one question also. Uh, how to stay updated with the latest trends and advancement in programming language, and also what are the common mistakes that a person can take while learning these languages?
Uh, okay, sorry, I missed some part of the question. Can you repeat?
So, like, how to stay updated with the latest trends and advancement in programming languages? Because programming language keeps on evolving, right? How to stay
Uh,
updated, and what are the common mistakes that a person can, take while learning that particular, while staying updated or trying to learn a new language?
yeah. So generally, whatever changes we have in our languages, like let's say there's a new version of Go come, right? And there will generally be a change log, right? Provided by the company. Like in this version, there's this features came. A lot of times we don't see that. You can see that, understand that any of the features does affect my life. When I write day-to-day code, it doesn't, don't bother. Generally, saying uh, keep on reading code. That's the only thing you can stay updated with. Uh, if there is a new pattern coming in Go, let's say we have generics coming in Go. I haven't seen somebody using generics yet in any company, and I don't think so. It was built for that, but there was a demand for it. They created it generics for Go, but I don't think it's needed anyway because the mindset when we write Go code uh, is very much like an pretty much imperative, and we don't want to go the that generics way at all, right? Now we have interfaces for it. So yeah, I mean, try to get a sense of what the language creators want to convey to you. Try to understand that. Maybe go through the YouTube videos of the language creator itself. Like if you go for the Go creators, right? I think Ken or Robert. I think Robert or Ken. Somebody. Uh, I forgot the name, but yeah, they have a good talk around the Go language and what they wanted to create. Then you understand what they want to convey because uh, there will be features coming in and out. The core idea remains the same. That okay, Go wants to provide simple language features to and a faster runtime, right? So that's what Go wants to give. So I would say, yeah, catching up with trends doesn't matter. Trends come and go. Fundamentals remains the same. Try to stick to fundamentals. Yeah.
Yeah. Coming to the resources, like, do you have any different essential resources like books, courses online, or forums like you keep yourself, you use personally that you would like to share it with the audience here with us?
Uh, uh, I totally believe on doing things. Uh, I used to use books before, like when I was around 2 to 3 years experience. There were a lot of free books I used to download, find some places where I can get books because obviously, I mean, that time uh, there was a lot of archives where you can get books from. So I used to do that, download that, read the PDFs. Now I think what I learn most from is I'm doing. If I want to learn something and start creating it and get more exposure with that. But if you want more higher level of understanding, like creating system, there is a book called Designing Data Intensive Applications, which is great. You should go through it. Or if you want to become more senior or a staff level thinking, you want to build that thing. I follow one more book, thinking like staff engineer or something. The pathway to becoming a staff engineer, I think something like that. So there's this book. Uh, I think it is okay for every level. It's a very generic advice given. So you can follow those book as well.
All right. We'll just take two more questions. One is, what advice do you have to improve PHP and Python OOP skills?
Okay, PHP and Python OOP skills. Uh, yeah, I think for PHP, Laravel is great. I mean, I worked with Laravel for 2 years when I was at Razorpay, and I find that framework very interesting, very fascinating. They built a very great framework. So I would suggest you read Laravel Codebase for PHP and Python. Recently started working on it, to be frank. Uh, and it has a similar kind of structure. I think it has classes. You can extend those things. So now point is like you can go ahead with some kind of design pattern course or design pattern books you can follow. There is one place I think. Let me see. Yeah, Sorry. Yeah. Mostly there is a called design gurus or something like that. Okay. There's a place where you can search the design patterns, like object-oriented design patterns in the internet. You can go through all the patterns, try to implement that on the same language. Like let's say you want to create that pattern in PHP, just write that code in PHP and try to understand what use case it can be helpful for, if I'm not wrong, right? So yeah, for PHP, I think go for Laravel. Just read the Laravel code base, you get to learn a lot of things. And for Python, I think Django is there. I don't know if Django is open source or not. I think it's open source. So you can read Django or write uh, try to implement the design patterns already there. I mean, in the internet. Yeah.
All right. One last question. This is like kind of like a generic question as well. Since you have worked with companies like Microsoft, Razorpay, and all, right? What advice do you have for developers who are looking to, look for a transition into those kind of companies?
Okay. I mean, to be frank, so I'll tell you one thing is India, like a decade back, mostly was not a decade back. Before that, I would say, I think 11, 12 years back, it was more of an outsourcing place, and we used to get work very in the niche, very niche kind of work we used to get, right? Uh, okay, we have designed the software. We want to get this functions ready and this ready and that ready, and people used to do outsource code and get it working. But the scenario has changed, and what has happened now is we are building products, right? We have built Zomato, we have built Razorpay, we have built a lot of products. Now the world doesn't see us as a outsourcing place. We are the builders now. We are the product companies, right? So now the our mindset is very much attached to a particular language. Like some people call it like I'm a Python developer, right? But that's not the right thing to say because you are actually a software developer, and doesn't matter what language you use. And if you tell yourself you are a Python developer, you become a very niche uh, place where you can just work with Python and you're an expert at Python, which is great. Nothing to be bad about, nothing bad about it. But if you want to transition to a more uh, places like this, they don't care about what language you write, right? They don't care what technology you know. They want to understand, given any challenges, given any kind of problem statement, can you break it down into smaller parts and can you solve it to the end, right? So try to build that mental model that you are not a particular developer or some kind of developer, but rather saying that I am a software engineer. I can solve any problem given time. Okay, so you can, yeah, just do that. I think that will help. You can easily able to crack this company. Again, obviously they have their own uh, like hiring criteria. They have their own interviews, so you have to prepare accordingly. But to prepare accordingly, again, don't go on the niche mindset. Go on the like broader mindset that you are in software engineering. Yeah.
All right, Ashok. I think we are done with the questions as well. So this has been a really insightful session. I'm pretty sure people who have joined and who will be, viewing this webinar is going to going to get a good insights and how to build a roadmap also for themselves, to be a better developer. Right. So thank you firstly, like for spending your weekend with us, and spending some time to impart your knowledges here for the attendees who have joined us. Uh, I'm pretty sure they have found the session very useful. They have a lot of learnings that they would like to take. Uh, who all have joined the session, we would like to see the learnings you have, received from this webinar. So you can maybe do a LinkedIn post. Don't forget to tag us and Ashok as well. We would love to see your learn is what you have learned. Do come into our community as well. You can interact, and if you want to have further conversation regarding this webinar, we can, have a conversation there on our Discord server. So yeah, do join us there. I've also shared a feedback form link in the chat. Just take few minutes to, give your feedback. It would also help us improve the webinars and bring more content for you guys for learning as well. Yeah. So before we end the session, Ashok, do you have anything you would like to say?
Yeah, so basically, I would say if you think I have missed something in the particular process, you can just tag me in the LinkedIn or any place, and I would like to address that if you think I have missed something. Yeah,
All right, Ashok. Thank you so much for, joining us once again. And looking forward to have more sessions also with you, hopefully in
yeah,
near
sure.
future. Yeah. Also, guys, so before we wrap things up, you guys can follow us. We are active on Instagram and LinkedIn as well, and also on YouTube. You can access all our webinars, our previous webinars there. Do check our social media out. You can also, check out our page Recro if you are a developer that is looking for a job opportunities. Recro do have a lot of openings currently happening, so do check out our site, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks again once again, Ashok, for spending your time with us and giving us a good, wonderful webinar session. And
Thank you.
everyone who have joined us also, thank you so much.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good weekend, guys. Have a good weekend, Ashok. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a same to you.